Senator McDougall, up to Nomad.
I want to welcome
We're back to peace and tranquility.
I want to welcome the Minister here and just to say a few words about this important topic. I mean, there's a number of things that I think we have to acknowledge, and that is, as the Minister said, in 2004 we had the first significant wind farm, I think, in Europe built off the coast of Arklow, and that was Ireland moving ahead. But now we're in a position that Ireland is behind the curve, and the Minister said we're in a race, but we're behind in the race, and we have to acknowledge that that's the situation. Scotland, for instance, has outpaced us hugely in this race. They have 4,000 people, I think, employed in the offshore wind business. They have taken huge steps using their infrastructure to establish onshore marine facilities to service those facilities. So we can't in the slightest bit be complacent, nor does it suffice, I think, just simply to throw out statements about what a golden opportunity we have. Everyone accepts that Ireland has a golden opportunity. Everybody accepts that Ireland has a massive resource in terms of offshore wind energy if we can put together the means to harvest it, to integrate it into our economy, to become an exporter of electricity and possibly hydrogen generated from it. All of those are good aspirations, and I support them 100%. The Minister, in his contribution, mentioned the fact that MARA at this stage is still tooling up in respect of personnel appointments. And it's true that the first round of licensing or auctions is due to take place, I think, in April of this year. But I mean, we are now, and let's be clear about it, when you're travelling to London, the plane begins to descend over Liverpool. We're now more than halfway through the life of this government, in all probability, or around halfway through the life of this government, one way or the other. And we don't have in operation at the moment a regulatory agency for offshore power generation, and we haven't conducted the relevant auctions. We are behind the curve in respect of all of this. And the Minister has laid emphasis, as doubtless he would, on the importance of combining the regulation of this matter from the point of view of MARA on the one hand with the construction and operation matters which will fall to An Bord Pleanála. And in that context, he's mentioned the need for upskilling An Bord Pleanála. I'm beginning to think that An Bord Pleanála is doing far too much. I really do think, that if you're, on the one hand, measuring the height of tower blocks in Dublin, and on the other hand, you're supposed to be working out the marine and ecological aspects of offshore, either floating or non-floating infrastructure, that for a single agency to take that on is, I think, doubtful. Now, I don't want to propose reinventing the wheel, but I wonder whether we shouldn't have an accelerated programme with a specialist agency to look at these matters and just simply have experts around the table, deal with it quickly and get on with it in a way which dovetails neatly with the regulatory arrangements, because we are in an energy, I'm not saying it's not so much a crisis at the moment, but I note what's happening in the UK, where they're appealing to people to turn off this, that and the other and rewarding them. We're not out of the woods yet in respect of these matters. But most importantly of all, we have a lot of work to do in building in Ireland sufficient port facilities to support an offshore wind generation capacity of the scale of which the Minister is speaking, the 8, whatever it is, gigawatts or whatever. If that's going to happen, either it's going to be serviced from the west coast of Britain, or from the Netherlands, or from Belfast, which is ahead of us in this regard, or it's going to be the basis of a native industrial capacity here. And I hear general talk about setting up this group and that group to study this, that and the other about ports. Really, you know, the time for study is past, or it should have taken place 18 months ago. The time for action is now. And if we are to catch up in this race, and I accept the Minister's analogy of being in a race, it's a race against a whole load of things, environmentally, planet-wise, you name it, we're in that race. I accept all of that. But I really think there is a sense of inertia that, you know, the only people who can decide planning matters in Ireland are on board Planola. Well, they haven't done a very good job of it. They really haven't done it. They have not been fit for purpose in many of the things they do. And to trust to them this area here and to say that we propose giving them additional human resources and expert resources to enable them to do the very complex and totally different tasks. I mean, as I said, it's very, very different to try and work out whether a partner should be south-facing or north-facing in Dublin in tower blocks, compared with the obligation to try and work out what can and cannot be done in areas of marine conservation by anchoring offshore floating facilities and having fixed floating facilities, and the ecological consequences of doing those things for fisheries, species diversity and the like. So I am suggesting, and I just want to say this, first of all, we need a renewed sense of urgency about all of this. We can't relax about it. I mean, I will say more about Derry Bryan when I introduce legislation in this House to deal with that issue. But we can't relax on the whole question of how quickly and how effectively we achieve the targets that the Minister is speaking about with such inspiring rhetoric. We actually have to galvanise the machine to deliver. And I don't accept that on board Planola is in a fit condition to do this. I regret the fact that Mara is now only tooling up in relation to key appointments to be in a position to carry out its very necessary function. I don't accept that we're doing a good job in relation to developing our port facilities to support the kind of scale of industry that the Minister is speaking about. I think that all of those things, it's easy to speak about them, but it's very, very difficult to achieve the steps which will actually give rise to huge economic benefit to this country. So, whereas I don't want to be negative, I share the Minister's ambition, but I query whether we are deluding ourselves by talk about realising those ambitions rather than taking concrete steps to achieve them. Thank you.